Howdy, yokes. Before we get started today, we want to let you know that this episode of Bacon and Eggs is brought to you by our wonderful friends over on Patreon. Now, when I say friends, I don't mean the employees at Patreon. I mean the patrons who support this show. You see, there are people out there who voluntarily give their money to this show to help two friends pay their bills and live their lives. Now, it's certainly something that we only want you to do if you are able to and have the means to, but it's a wonderful voluntary subscription service where you can support this show, and if you get some value out of it, we hope that we can provide some value back to you in the form of some great Patreon perks like early unedited episodes, bonus episodes every single week, access to our Discord server, a bunch of really cool stuff. So if any of that sounds appealing to you, then maybe head over to patreon.com/baconandeggs. Check out the great reward tiers we have over there. Thanks. Bye. Howdy, yokes, and welcome back to Bacon and Eggs. I'm Tyler Carlin.
I don't have the script open, but I'm Ethan Edgehill.
And today we're 7,000 years old.
Or maybe we're just in a flashback.
So you're not allowed to interfere.
Unless there are deviants.
Because today we're bringing you...
Just Eternals. It's written The Eternals. It's just Eternals, Tyler.
I thought it was like Marvel Presents The Eternals or something.
No, that would make it easier to search places.
Well, Eternals was directed by Chloe Zhao, came out on November 5th, 2021, 5 days ago, had a $200 million budget, and I do want to quickly just compare that to Chloe Zhao's Oscar-winning Nomadland, which had a $5 million budget, so an extra $195 million for this project. So far has made $166.3 million at the box office, got a 46% critic rating and an 80% audience rating on Rotten Tomatoes and a 52 on Metacritic. This is currently the lowest rated Marvel movie, but we're joined this week by Ethan and I's good friend, longtime friend, former college classmate. We had a class together, Jim Swindell.
We did. We had Italian together, although you don't remember much of it because you slept a lot.
I don't show up a lot.
I don't remember much of it because I didn't practice after college. So, but I have seen the professora. Is that Spanish or is that Italian? I don't know. I've seen the professor several times.
I following that class took Italian 3 more times.
I speak the third most Italian.
I think you don't. I think you probably speak the most Italian.
Like I said, third most.
Third most.
Buongiorno.
Hey guys, thanks for having me back on the pod. I'm really excited to dig deep into this one.
I'm already upset a lot. Also, if you're watching this on the video, take a look at my nice mountain of clothes. These are clean, unfolded laundry that I have here. Ethan made a comment about it when we first got on the Zoom call. I want you to know that I'm a human being just like you.
Well, I made a comment about it. I don't care if you're a human being. I made a comment about it because you were giving me crap for being late while you didn't do the script
Ethan
and didn't clean your setup.
slaughtered a lamb.
I did not. My showing started late, and this movie, it never ended ever.
This movie ended way too soon. I could have watched it for another 10 hours.
Longest movie I've ever seen in my entire life.
I want to hear some negative and positive Rotten Tomatoes critics reviews, Ethan. What do you got?
I got a negative review here from Richard Brody of The New Yorker, who says, regardless of Zhao's and Marvel's intentions, Eternals is a parade of faces without experience. A movie that reaches back and forth through history and comes back empty-handed.
Boo. Boo. I don't like Richard Brody, although I do see where he's coming from here. But I think he just wanted to write a negative review because he saw this movie and he was like, this is going to get negative reviews, and I want to be on the popular side of this, is how I feel about that review. Ian Simmons from Kicking the Seat, which is the first positive review, and it's somebody I've never heard of and is not a top critic, so I'm not super thrilled about that. Says the long and short of it is that, yes, Eternals is a colossal bore. For those lacking patience, heart, and imagination, 4 out of 5. Boom! Ian Simmons from Kicking the Seat. What a great reviewer, great website. This episode is brought to you by Ian Simmons of KickingTheSeat.com. Ian Simmons,
that's the most
smarter than you.
That's the most backhanded compliment I've ever seen. Like, it's awful, but it's a 4 out of 5, I guess.
No, he doesn't say it's awful. He says you're awful if you think it's a colossal bore.
Oh, I misinterpreted. It sounded very backhanded to me.
Yes. I would read you some Discord reviews, but another thing that Tyler didn't do while he was giving me grief for showing up late was ask for scores in any way whatsoever for this movie on Discord or Facebook, which is his one job in the week leading up to the movie.
Did you slaughter a lamb? That's what I want to know.
I'm weak.
In the meantime, James, 0 out of 100 on Eternals.
Oof.
This is going to be the lowest one. I guarantee it.
I absolutely hated this movie. I'm going to give it a 40.
Wow. 40. Expound on that real
40.
quick. I got to eat some spaghetti while you're expounding on that.
Sure, eat some spaghetti. So about like an hour and a half into the movie, I text Katie and I said, Katie, this movie is really bad. I tried my hardest to go into it because I text you guys how long? How
See, I don't like to interrupt people in the middle of their reviews, James, and I've known and loved you for a very, very long time. You just used the word text as the past tense of the verb, and therefore your opinion's irrelevant.
Okay, I sent you.
I hate people that do that.
Okay, that's fine. So when did I message you guys about this episode? Weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
And I said, if you don't have anyone on the show for Eternals, please keep me in mind. I am hyped for this movie. And Tyler said, come on down. We don't have anyone planned. I don't think we were going to have anyone planned. We'd love to have you. And in the weeks leading up to that, that's when all of these reviews came out, like negative reviews upon negative reviews. And I got to say, none of them are wrong. This was a colossal, colossal failure.
I don't want to interrupt you in the same review twice. A lot of them are wrong. I didn't love this movie the way Tyler did, but a lot of the reviews of this movie were written for the wrong reasons.
I'd love to talk more about it later, but I mean,
yes, I'm sure we will.
I'm incredibly disappointed. However, I will say that it ended on a high note with the end credit scenes. So that's the one part of the movie I liked.
James, I disagree with literally everything you just said.
That's great.
A ton of the reviews are very wrong because they don't like this movie because it's not white, or because the only two white male characters are in interracial relationships,
or because black people kiss on screen.
Yeah, or there's an openly gay relationship, or because both of the white people are evil. That's a lot of the reasons people didn't like this movie. If you didn't like this movie because you watched it and you didn't like it, whatever. That's totally fine. If you didn't like the movie for those reasons, you're a shitbag. I'll just come out and say that.
Sure, I agree. I agree with that, but that's not the reason why I didn't like it.
End credit scenes have me more worried than anything else. I thought the CGI on Patton Oswalt as Pip was terrible. Harry Styles is an unproven actor playing a huge fucking role in the MCU.
He's not an unproven actor.
Is he not? I don't know.
He's been in so much. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he got a Best Actor nomination for Dunkirk. A Christopher Nolan feature film that he was the lead in.
I forgot he was in Dunkirk. Okay, so a little less concerned then.
He's also not playing a huge character. There are no more huge characters. We're past the point of huge characters in the MCU.
Eros could easily be Thanos' brother. That could easily be a huge character. And from what I understand, he's going to have a lot to do with Adam Warlock. But I don't know a lot about the comics, especially at this stage. We're really digging into, like, nothing prepared you for this. 3, this movie fucking slaps, bro. This was a departure from the typical MCU. Yes, Shang-Chi was fantastic. I would say where I'm sitting right now, you don't think Shang-Chi was fantastic?
No, I don't think that this was that much of a departure.
I do. I think where it had to be part of the MCU is its biggest failing point. It's not perfect by any measure. It's not my number one favorite MCU movie. I will say, with this movie coming out, I feel like I can rank the phases, and in my mind it goes phase 3, phase 4, phase 1, phase 2.
This is my 4th favorite MCU movie that's come out this year.
And yeah.
Anyway, my score, 91.
Man, that's high. I'm gonna go flat beautiful. 70. So it was fine.
Flat 70.
It was fine. It made up for a lot of wrongs
cringe.
the MCU's committed over the time. But also it relies a lot on, like, Richard Madden's eyebrow acting, which isn't great. It relies a lot on Angelina Jolie to say things on screen, which isn't great.
I didn't have any problem with Angelina.
Oh, she was awful. She was awful. It was bad acting.
Disagreed. I thought she did.
Unsold every time she was on screen.
Angelina Jolie's a bad actress. Like, she's a superstar and totally deserves that stardom.
Sure.
Maybe not deserves. But she's a bad actress. Like, we've known this. She hasn't acted in a while.
Right.
She knows this.
That's not a positive thing about a movie, though.
I thought she was fine with what she was given. It's very, like, I didn't recognize any of the other actors on screen, and then Angelina Jolie would show up, and I'd be like, I know exactly who that is. That's Angelina Jolie. She married Brad Pitt. I know her. Now, I know all the other people are from stuff. They're from, like, Game of Thrones and stuff. Yeah. But nothing that I, like, immediately recognize them from. To me, the weakest point was Richard Madden.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I think is an unpopular opinion. A lot of people seem to really like his portrayal of Icarus. I think he had nothing to work with.
I mean, yeah, Icarus might just be like I don't know anything about this character outside. I don't know anything about any of the characters outside of this movie. It is very possible that he is just constantly written everywhere as the most bland, boring, milquetoast white guy that's ever white guy in all of history.
Yeah.
And if so, Richard Madden's a perfect character choice.
I think here was my issue with Richard Madden the whole time was outside of the MCU and like superhero storytelling over the past 5 years, this like Superman knockoff turns out to be a bad guy is such a common fucking trope. And I was bored of it the first time and I'm bored of it right now.
Mm-hmm.
I just found the whole movie to be boring. Like, I enjoyed many aspects of the film. Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed the fact that each Eternal had their own particular skill. I enjoyed that they attempted to show that all of them had different lives that they led and that they were diverged different paths, although they were on very similar trajectories in the beginning when they were created. I enjoyed the fact that like they didn't try to beat us over the head with the story in the beginning, and it was sort of this haphazard way of like finding out all of the backstory. And I was very grateful that they didn't try to go back and, you know, every time that they reset these characters to demonstrate, you know, their millions of years worth of birthing celestials. That being said, I thought the screenwriting was terrible. I just thought that was the worst part of it. I felt that by having the screenwriting so bad, the characters were so shallow. We've been able to see how Avengers Endgame and Infinity War, like you don't have to, yes, you're relying on other movies to inform you about these characters, but you don't necessarily need to know those movies to enjoy one.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, anybody who says that you don't have to
not
watch other movies to watch Infinity War is full of crap.
No,
Yeah, you could not walk in on Infinity War not knowing who Spider-Man is, not knowing who Peter Quill is, not knowing who Iron Man. Like, you would be so freaking that's one of the great things about Infinity War is that you have to be informed, and everyone was.
Sure, but the point that I'm trying to make is that it's while they can get away with sort of the fast-paced nature of it, this movie was neither fast and nor did it describe many of the characters very well, to the point that where we were able to say, oh, I know enough about them to understand the motivations behind someone stabbing someone in the back or anything like that. Like, I just felt everything was so shallow. And so, I mean, the villain itself, while I called a misdirect very early in the film, like, oh, the deviants aren't really going to be the big bad of the film. It's going to be something else. I still felt that even the villain that they tried to portray on screen with Bill Skarsgård was poorly written too. Like, there was absolutely no motivation other than the fact that you were set on planet Earth, millions of years ago by, the same being that created the Eternals. I just felt everything was just so glossed over that by the time we got to the end, I was like, I didn't learn anything about anyone or the story for that matter.
I don't think you watched the movie, Jay.
Yeah, it was neither fast nor was it paced, honestly. But I do kind of disagree with you on a couple things there. The chief thing I thought was going to be wrong with this movie was that we were not going to get enough of the non-lead characters, right? And I truly think they did a very good job of showing me the different skills, the different lives, the different backstories. I would have loved to have learned more about some of the characters for sure. It's a 2.5 hour movie though. Like, I feel the same way about it as I did with Dune, that I still don't really know who Paul Atreides is at the end of Dune. And
Dune was a comparison I wanted to make as well. Yeah.
Yeah, but I honestly, I think they did a really good job. And it's one of those things where, like, I just read all 4 Twilight books, right? I can't stand Edward Cullen or Bella Swan. I live for the support cast, though, and I feel the same way about this movie. I think that everybody, like, Athena is not my favorite, but everybody outside of Cersei and Icarus, I thought, did a fantastic job. They were written well enough. They were portrayed by interesting characters. Anytime Kumail Nanjiani was on screen, it was fantastic.
He was almost too much of a personality, where, like,
which should never be the case, though.
Right, but I feel like some of the other characters who had more subdued, like, characters and were not actors who had been in, Kumail Nanjiani is a comedian. He's been in some big stuff. I feel like a lot of the other actors, if they didn't have enough presence, they were easily overshadowed by how fantastic this portrayal was. I also think you can see very clearly watching the movie that, like, him and Gemma Chan did the most work preparing for these roles.
Sure. It was an absolute waste of Salma Hayek. It was an absolute waste of Kit Harington.
Salma Hayek was fantastic.
She was, but she's on screen for 5 minutes in the movie. I would watch. Switch them. Salma Hayek can play Athena, and Angelina Jolie can play Ajak, and it's a better movie. I promise
Disagree.
you. It's a better movie, I promise you. Waste of Kit Harington, waste of Bill Skarsgård.
Who's Bill Skarsgård?
He played the
he was the deviant.
He was the
bad
deviant
guy, the one that had no
that had
backstory,
no motivation whatsoever or
no
backstory,
motivation, nothing. He was just
I figured
there.
that was going to be something we had to visit later on down the line.
The deviants, you could cut the deviants out of this movie entirely.
Yeah. And the idea that so I appreciate the performance. Can you pronounce his name? I'm sorry, I get it wrong every time. Is it Kumail
Nanjiani?
Kumail Nanjiani. Sorry, I get it wrong every time.
You're
I just
good.
want to be corrected.
You're good.
His character was the closest thing to like Marvel humor that was in this movie, and I got to agree with Tyler that they tried to break the mold a little bit, and I felt that they were extremely unsuccessful. Like, if they wanted to break the mold, fine, I'm happy with that. But I didn't feel that this did anything other than set up another Eternals film. It might have.
I disagree. I feel like you come in, if you look at the trajectory of Marvel over the whole thing, right?
Sure.
James Gunn is the first to break the mold, right? Like, Jon Favreau comes in, does Iron Man, and then they just make that like 10 times. And then James Gunn comes in and does Guardians of the Galaxy, and it's like, these things can be funny. And then other things happen. And then we do Thor Ragnarok, and Taika Waititi is like, these things can be very like film festival funny. Fantastic. Love it, right? And then Shang-Chi comes around and we go back to the James Gunn thing, which there is no Shang-Chi slander on this channel. Amazing movie.
It's great.
But Chloe Zhao coming in and doing a Marvel movie that is genuinely gorgeous. I think mostly, I think it's beautiful. Off of green screen, around parts of the world we haven't explored yet. I don't know. I really like that factor to it. I do think the deviants not super necessary in like the modern act. I think you had to have them to explain like, we've been on this earth for 7,000 years and we slayed the deviants. Like, that has to be there, because if you're going to say they've been on the earth for 7,000 years, they need like a reason to have come here and a reason they weren't involved.
Yeah, I felt though at times like, so the way that they tried to demonstrate something lasting that long and having such an impact on these character arcs, right? To demonstrate that there was like thousands years long romance between two characters was that portray them having sex on screen. Like, I can see why so many people were just like, this is totally unnecessary. And like, I'm not slut shaming anyone. I'm not sex shaming anyone.
I don't think Cersei was a slut. I don't think anybody.
No, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying.
She had
you
two
boned
relationships
one
in
dude in 1,000 years. In 5,000 years.
No, I don't want you to get the impression that I'm not sex positive, but for a to demonstrate as thousands of years romance by having this sort of cheesy lovemaking moment on screen, which I mean I thought was sort of beautiful in the sense that it wasn't this like stereotypical rip your clothes off type of deal like that we see in most films. I just didn't.
It was like a fade from black
it.
Sex scene, which is interesting.
It was something. I didn't think much of the sex scene. I'll tell you, there were parts of this movie I didn't like or haven't thought much about since it ended. That like, whatever, it happened. The sex scene, like, will that affect whether or not I want to watch this movie with my kids as young as possible? I don't think so.
Not really. I don't have kids, but like, I can't see it being
like, yeah, I don't think it'll be an issue. Like, I'll still watch it with them. So I don't know.
You could show
and
them
then, like,
network TV. It would be fine.
Right. And then like, for me being 28, I'm not bothered by there being a sex scene. Like, I have kids. I know what sex is. Like,
certainly not bothered by it. I just thought it was like a really cheap device to use to demonstrate that they were so in love.
I think what happened there is Chloe Zhao goes to Kevin Feige and is like, I want to do something bold. And he was like, cool, you can have two men kiss on screen. I love that. Let's absolutely make that happen. And she was like, I want that, but I also want a sex scene. And he was like, I don't know that that's necessary, but sure, I guess.
This movie felt to me like the bastard love child of like James Gunn and Zack Snyder. Like it felt like they were like, you know what was cool? Guardians of the Galaxy. You know what else is cool? Justice League. Let's bring some Justice League into the MCU. In fact, let's name Superman in the MCU. Let's just
Batman too.
Let's just decide that Superman is Marvel canon.
Like the concept of Superman.
Yeah, like
yeah. And Batman as well.
And Star Wars.
That was a little on the
Star
nose
Wars
too,
is fine.
because
Star
the
Wars,
kid.
Star Wars, real quick, I want to interrupt. Star Wars
Sure.
is actually canon in the MCU now, not as like a concept like these movies exist or this story exists. In What If, they go to Mustafar.
Do they?
Yeah.
Like by name?
They are plummeting through like portals. And one of, like, you remember in Guardians of the Galaxy when they're like jumping through little spots?
Yeah.
They're like plummeting through, I guess, universes. And one of the ones that they go through is obviously Mustafar.
I didn't see that. I'm gonna have to go back and watch it.
Interesting. Because there's literally like he's reading a Star Wars book at the dinner table.
Yeah,
in
and
this
he
movie.
calls him Superman in
Yeah.
their interaction. He said that Superman was on TV. He
Yeah.
had a cape and everything. And he says, I don't wear a cape.
Yeah, so when Icarus goes into the house, he picks up awkwardly picks up a Star Wars book. Like it says Star Wars on the cover. It was wild. It was just a wild play. I don't want to feel like I hated this movie, right? Like, cause I truly didn't. I thought it was fine, right? I wouldn't stop somebody from seeing it. I wouldn't like recommend somebody see it, I guess. And I mean, it's part of the MCU. I don't think it's a particularly like, I don't feel like it added much. I feel like it more opened doors that I'm not interested in. So I was kind of really looking forward to not having like Thanos level events for a little while.
That's not going to happen.
And they were like, no, we're going to rip a person out of the center of the earth and then kill him.
Turn him to stone, which I thought they were turning him to like a snowy mountain.
He looks like ice to me, yeah.
But the movie's, it feels like it was just made by like, for a movie directed by an Oscar-winning director for like art films, it feels like it was a movie made by committee.
It could have been. I mean, it absolutely could have been.
They had 6 shooting units and 10 visual effects studios working on this movie. 10. They were like, Industrial Light and Magic, which we own, is not good enough. We also need to employ Weta and every other visual effects studio on the planet.
Well, I think you also,
and I think
have
that
to,
shows.
Like,
I really
you
do.
also have to take into effect or account or whatever that, like, I have no idea when this was filmed, but I would assume the pandemic got in the way of this at least somewhat. Like, even if they filmed it prior to the pandemic, maybe they got 10 studios because they needed 10 studios.
Well, yeah, I'm not doubting that they needed 10 studios, but I'm just saying that I think it comes across. I thought the visual effects in this movie were all right.
There were some scenes where I could clearly see that they cut it. There were some scenes where I could clearly see that they cut it at a weird spot in like their filming. Like they would go from shot to shot in some interactions, and I'm like, whoa, what the hell just happened? Like, I don't know. And not to sound too tropey, because I feel like what I'm about to say is the equivalent of like an American Idol judge saying that you were too pitchy. But like, for the sake of just explaining how I feel about it, I feel like this movie sort of dragged under the weight of its own seriousness. Like it was a movie that's not supposed to be too serious, but they wanted to treat it so seriously that it felt silly. Like,
I do feel like they could have given this story like 3 stages, like 3 acts, to be like, this first movie, we're going to introduce you to these characters. They'll have like a regular level of, because I do feel like at the end when they were like, oh, by the way, there's a celestial inside the earth, I was like, okay, that seems a bit serious. Let's dial it. But maybe we set that story up and 2 movies from now we address that problem.
We introduce Crow, which is the deviant boss guy. We introduce him at the end of this movie, right? Like he gets his speech powers. Like the last scene is like him talking for the first time. They're like, oh shit. And then
that's the character. He's literally like, oh shit, I can talk.
And then fade to black or cut to black. And then we get another movie.
I would take 3 movies of this. I loved the interaction between the characters.
Well, I think you're gonna get 3, and I have no doubt that the next one is gonna be probably better in every way.
I do think killing off Gilgamesh was a crime.
That was a choice. Yeah.
Gilgamesh was awesome.
Gilgamesh was awesome.
Oh, it would have been cooler if it was a show too.
I think the criticism that like this would have worked insanely well as a show, has been loud and clear.
Yeah, I would have much rather had a show, because at that point, the pace that they took it would have just it wouldn't have felt like we had to achieve everything in one sit. We could actually come back and revisit and I don't know if they did a weekly release like they're doing on Disney Plus. They could do that that motion where they move forward and then you have to go back just enough to revisit something from the previous episode in order to move, and to move forward again. And I feel like that would have been incredibly helpful for the character building, for the I don't know, for everything. I think
we also had a bunch of I keep going back to Game of Thrones because I think that's where a lot of these people are from. I have no idea. But you have a bunch of actors who are from big budget TV shows that I feel like I don't think the transition from TV to movie is always as smooth as people think it is. I do want to talk about characters real quick. The character I think I was most excited about, knowing nothing about any of them, but just looking at the posters and being like, that looks like a cool character, was Sprite. Give me your take on Sprite in the movie.
I think that she was the most mishandled.
I would agree, again, because of the third act where they were they have that moment where Kumail Nanjiani is like, oh yeah, you love Icarus, which they explain it through Peter Pan in such a way that I was like, I can't follow who you said who was who. One of them's Wendy, one of them's the Lost Boys. I don't remember who you said she loved, and then at the end she runs off with Icarus as I'll do anything to support you. And I was like, I wasn't sold that you loved him at all.
Her story of, is in love with a guy who will never look at her because she was born an immortal child in a world of adults and just wants to be human for 5 minutes is a very interesting story that just wasn't told.
I don't think you have to explain. I don't think you have to have her be in love with Icarus.
I don't think you do either.
For that story to be told. I think a 7,000-year-old person is stuck at 15 years old is an interesting enough story.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But unfortunately,
underneath all sorts of stuff.
And this is the issue with this entire movie for me, from a storytelling perspective. It was love the whole time. Everything was.
Yeah,
everything.
Tell me, was Gilgamesh and Thena, were they a romantic item?
I believe so, and they were the only ones I cared about.
I thought that was a romance is the wrong word, but platonic romance. These are two people who deeply love and care for each other in a familial way.
I think you can and should take it that way. I don't think it was intended that way.
Yeah, someone was saying that their impression, a coworker of mine said that their impression was that they didn't understand how they were family. Not because they were of different genders and races and creeds and all of that, and sexualities, none of that was the case. She just said the impression that they were family didn't come across on the screen in a way that I would have expected, given that they were throwing family around the whole time. At most, they were just close coworkers.
See, I would have thought the reverse would be true, in that I don't understand how you all are romantic. You're family.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, is that there's so many love triangles. There's so many. This person is with this person, but then there's also some feelings for that person, and it all just sort of gets caught up in, like you were saying, oh my god, by the end of the show, by the end of the movie, I don't know who is what anymore, and I'm deeply confused about what's going on.
Well, and this is the thing. Sorry, go ahead. I thought you were.
No, I was just gonna say, and suddenly there's a giant rock in the middle of the ocean.
So they definitely the screenwriters definitely thought to pair everybody off except for Ajax and Sprite, who I guess both had secrets or whatever. Because Cersei and Icarus are together, and Druig and Makari are together, and Athena and there's so many names. This is the problem I had with this concept. Is there's so many names.
It's just Thena.
I said Thena.
Correct. She makes that comment in the movie too.
Making that comment in the movie 2 weeks after Mark Zuckerberg rebrands Facebook is hilarious. Which is drop the
It's just Thena.
It's just Thena.
Just Thena.
But yeah, so they're all paired off except for Sprite and Ajax. But yeah, I just don't buy it, right? I never bought them as romantic partners, and I also never bought them as family. When I really feel like if you're together for 5,000 years, as one contiguous unit before you decide to go off in your separate ways. I feel like the twain should meet, right? Your romantic relationship and your platonic relationship should come to a point at some point, right? To the point where you're just these are my people. We've been together for 5,000 years.
Also in a significantly lonely sort of way.
Yeah.
There is nobody. It's not that we've been together for 7,000 years and nobody else. Or and there were other people who were there, but this was my crew. We were the only people around that long. There's some trees that made it, but that's it.
I did see. I want to talk about the 5,000 years thing for a second. I saw one hilarious tweet exchange that was like, "Wow, it's so weird that they all had different accents. Like they wouldn't have those different accents, you know, if they're all supposed to be from the same place." And then the other person responded just like, "Yeah, they made the accents, dog. Like people sound like that because of them, not the other way around."
I did like how they intertwined themselves and added to like the Earth mythos,
Yeah.
being like, yeah, we wrote the story of Gilgamesh, we wrote the story of Icarus. It all came from Sprite, who was this like storyteller.
Icarus flying into the fucking sun at the end of the movie.
On the nose.
Barf.
Very on the nose.
Barf.
I didn't think he needed to, right?
Yeah.
I was like, I mean,
And I'm not convinced he's dead. I'm not convinced until you show him melting and dying. Unless you show him like Gollum jumping into the fires of Mount Doom and physically disintegrating into the lava. I don't believe he's dead.
well, what would happen?
don't.
I think referencing Superman multiple times in the movie is very on the nose, but it also is like foreshadowing, where it's like, okay, if Icarus is Superman, then he gets his power from the sun, and
That's
they'll
what-
like,
yeah.
right, like, so him flying into the sun is just going to make him a badder villain down the line. You think Richard Madden's going to turn down that Marvel money? I don't think so.
Negative.
No,
he got
no.
killed off after 3 seasons of Game of Thrones.
And he saw that Rocket Man money too, and he was like, "Well, this is alright, but like Marvel money, yeah, I'll take that."
Marvel money is money.
Forgot he was in Rocket Man.
He
He
was in
made
Rocket
more money doing this than Chloe Zhao spent on freaking Nomadland.
Oh, definitely.
Nomadland.
I do want to ask you another character I didn't feel like we got enough of. Maybe I wasn't paying attention earlier on in the movie. Seems like they showed up in the second half. Was Makari. Although every second with Makari on screen
It's amazing.
was
She was so
perfect.
good.
Yeah,
So
fantastic.
So good. She didn't say a single word other than one audible scream, and her whole performance was killer. Like I think, and that's the cool part about this movie too, was that like, yeah, Angelina Jolie, like she wasn't given much to work with. I don't think necessarily she's a bad actor, but also like I don't necessarily think she had much to work with. But actors that portraying Fastos and actors portraying Makari like made so much out of so little, I thought, and were just the best parts of this film.
Well, and what I love about Lauren Ridloff is that like I loved the way they incorporated sign language into it. That it was just like, this is a language people speak and they understand it, and we're just moving forward.
Yeah, it was
with
a
that.
no question that everybody she was with spoke that language.
Spoke sign language.
Yeah.
Perfect. She is a genuine deaf actress, which is amazing.
She has been basically the best part of both the movies I've seen her in this year.
What was
What
the
else was
first?
she? She was in Sound of Metal.
She was in Sound
I
of
didn't
Metal.
realize. Yeah, which was fantastic.
She was the school teacher.
Yes, she was. There's been a whole bunch of stuff. Well, not a whole.
Yeah,
bunch
I definitely wanted more Makari. I definitely wanted more Faustus.
Festus.
Fastos. Yes,
He's a
Fastos.
Festus, right? He's the person who makes Zeus's bolts.
Yeah.
That's the
Sure. Yes.
Wanted more him, wanted more Makari, wanted more Druig.
Did you want? Druig
Have
is
you seen the
fantastic.
article? Have you seen the article about the actor who portrayed Fastos? It's been circulating on Facebook about how he was surprised that they didn't ask him to lose any weight for the role. They said he was. Chloe Zhao said, "I want to take you as you are." Like, what do you mean you have to lose weight? And he said, for a black man in America to be asked not to change himself, but to be himself, was sort of the most inspirational moment for him, and he could figure that many people just like him, younger kids and adults would sort of look to that as a source of inspiration. It just makes the significance of that role that much more meaningful to see. And I mean, and the thing that people were sort of rating bomb this because of its diversity is such a shame. I mean,
It's
like
so
I felt like
stupid at
that
this
was
point.
the best part of this film, was that you got to see a plethora of people just perform in an ensemble that was just uniquely diverse, and it wasn't like, oh, we're going to show you up because we're diverse. Like, they weren't trying to be on the nose. They literally just said, here are some superheroes that represent the best parts of America, and they're just going to kick ass the whole time. Like,
Well, the best parts of the world.
Yeah. And maybe the Bollywood stuff was sort of on the nose, but like, it didn't read to me like it was cheap. Like, it read to me like you were actually featuring some really cool parts of this character and how he intersects with history and time.
Also, everything about Bollywood is on the nose. That's the point of Bollywood.
I think, and I think there's a silly sort of like discussion, not even discussion, sort of like sibling rivalry almost between Hollywood and Bollywood to like make these sort of disparaging comments all in good fun. Like, I don't think anything they said was rude in any way.
Yeah.
I will say on the topic of losing weight for the movie, I did notice that Brian Tyree Henry didn't lose weight, which is like not in any way a negative review. I love that there were heroes of a variety of sizes. I do know that like when Kumail Nanjiani was cast in this role, there was like pictures circulating of him being absolutely jacked so that he could play a Marvel hero. And so that almost bothers me. Not that like, I mean, whatever. You play a Marvel hero, you get ripped. I'm cool with that. But the fact that like, if anybody at any point said to him like, hey, you need to lose weight and get ripped because you're in a Marvel movie now, that to me seems like, well, that's kind of unfair. You didn't make everybody do that. And it's not like his power set required him to be in particularly fantastic shape.
Yeah.
He has finger guns.
But he was also like the heartthrob of Bollywood. So to me, it was like he got jacked because of the character he's portraying. And
yeah,
he didn't have to lose weight because of the not because of the character he was playing. It was just not the character he was playing.
Yeah.
It wasn't. It was the character he was playing, not the superhero he was playing.
Yeah, because he was more of a thinker builder versus finger guns, heartthrob, overtime, type of character.
And everybody knows if you're fat, you can still think. Just like I've always said. I think all the time. No, fortunately, we've been able to say this same sentence about a lot of these Marvel movies recently. But, like, I want to make it clear, again, as I have about Shang-Chi and as I have about Black Widow, if this is your favorite Marvel movie, hell, if this is your favorite movie ever, for any reason, go for it, right? You don't have to listen to us, three white dudes, talk about misplaced and mishandled storytelling for 2 hours. If you are any human being that felt represented by this movie, if you're, a fat black gay man, if you're Southeast Asian, if you're Indian, if you're Latina, if you're whatever, if you're a gay Muslim, whatever you want, if you saw yourself in this movie, and a lot of people saw themselves in this movie, possibly for the first time ever. That is never going to be a bad thing, especially in these movies that are going to be seen by a lot of people. And so the people that rate these movies poorly because there's a gay kiss on scene or on screen, it's just so stupid at this point. Like, when do we get to move past that crap?
Not soon enough.
Soon enough.
Recently, Bacon and Eggs was signed up for like right-wing propaganda emails.
Oh my God. Yes, and whoever has decided to sign us up to the Bacon and Eggs email address with some Glenn Youngkin bullshit, please stop. No, it wasn't
Glenn Youngkin. I can't handle Glenn Youngkin. I hate that man with a passion. And this is not Bacon and Eggs getting political. This is like, I don't see these awful takes ever, but we got this email from this company called Judicial Watch where like the first paragraph is all about how a local school system in Maryland, which is not where we live, is teaching critical race theory, which it is definitely not teaching critical race theory to elementary schoolers. Like, it's one thing to teach diversity. Critical race theory is like a college level course. But they like the last sentence of that is the new records include a training course with information about a book called Anti-Racist Baby that introduces the youngest readers to, quote, the concept and power of anti-racism, unquote, and says it's the, quote, perfect gift for, quote, babies to age 3, unquote. As though that is like a bad thing in any way, that like teaching children to not be racist is a bad thing. I'm not getting political. Being racist is bad.
Yeah,
period.
and
Tyler, and it is okay to teach children to not be racist.
Yeah, so what I would really appreciate you said that, because I've had this conversation with a few people lately where, like, the idea of taking ownership of one's racism has really sort of diverged into two paths, right? You have people who are accepting that a racist behavior exists, or that has existed and continues to exist, and that there are a few things that people want you to do. They want you to acknowledge that racism was bad and continues to be bad. 2, they want you to acknowledge that you have played a part in some way, shape, or form in racist behavior. And 3, to do your best to be anti-racist in your life. That's a lifetime goal to work towards, right? And so what that is sort of the one of the central lessons that we're learning throughout our history, and especially now with the Black Lives Matter movement and the sort of the inflection point that we had after George Floyd's passing, murder, excuse me. And so, but what others have done is that they have weaponized things like critical race theory to put a lot of people on the defensive, because people are inherently good, I think, and they don't necessarily want to feel like they are a bad person. So they don't want to feel bad. So they say, well, I don't want something that's going to make me feel bad. And I don't want that in schools. I think that that's wrong. And I shouldn't feel like a racist. But it's... I don't know what to tell those people. Like, I just know that, like, what I've managed to learn throughout this process as a 30-something white person, and to continue to, and I agree with Ethan wholeheartedly about this film, and that I don't think it's a bad film because of X, Y, or Z reason, one of which is its diversity. I feel like diversity, it's its strength, that there's so much to learn from this diversity, and that this is an incredibly important moment in film and history. And so for us to say, hey, we didn't really like the movie, however, there's so much value in it, despite us bitching about it for as much time that we sat to watch it, you know? And I don't want anyone out there to not feel seen. I don't want anyone out there to not feel represented. And I certainly don't want anyone out there to think that they don't have allies in their worlds, because I know that, like, there's someone that's going to be out there that's going to be struggling, and that this movie might help them see that there is hope for people that look like them, that express themselves the way that they do, that love the people that they love. So yeah, I mean, that's just a long tangent, but like, I was just greatly appreciative of your comment and how it sort of connected with some of the things that we were all talking about this film.
Yeah. And I think one thing I've noticed, especially like with a lot of the films that have come out in the past few years, is if a film does not represent me, which is so rare, like films depicting well-to-do white men are a dime a dozen. But if a film doesn't represent me, it takes me a minute to like sort of recalibrate and be like, oh, this wasn't made. I mean, it was made with me in mind, but this wasn't made with me in mind. And I do feel like that affects my reviews from time to time. And this movie I genuinely loved. One that we have consistently left positive reviews for, and I will continue to leave positive reviews for. But when I watch, I definitely feel like this wasn't made for me, and that's okay, is Captain Marvel. Where like I watch it and I'm like, I'm not supposed to feel like I'll be Iron Man at the end of this movie. That's fine.
Right.
I love this movie. But it's so not for me.
Right.
I'm ready for Captain Marvel to take a next step up when it's the Marvels and we have a Southeast Asian, a Black, and a white woman together as the ensemble. I want them separately, but the fact that that's the team we're going to get is so exciting for me. Like,
is Kamala Khan's not Southeast Asian, she's Middle Eastern.
Kamala Khan isn't she Indian? Which is Southeast Asian?
That's South Asian.
I think
South
she's
Asian, sorry.
Not Indian. I don't know.
Let me double check.
Yeah.
I don't know who you're talking about. So
Miss Marvel. Oh my God. I don't read a lot of comics. I will tell you this. The like first arc of Miss Marvel from like 2015 or something. I don't remember the exact year. It's on my Kindle right here. Is fantastic. Is extremely readable, and everyone should read it. And doesn't require like a ton of outside knowledge about comics.
Well, I'm excited to be excited about this in like May or whatever.
Yeah.
Indian American, number one.
Indian American. Okay, I thought Middle East.
And number two.
You're both wrong.
I liked. Yeah. Sorry to the listeners out there. I was wrong about someone's race and ethnicity, and that is something I'd like to acknowledge because that is incredible importance. But the Marvel's Avengers video game for several platforms, including PlayStation, which I own it for, is not a very good game, but the story was probably the most redeeming part of it.
I've heard it's not good.
It's not good, but the story is actually it's really cool. And it basically follows the events of A-Day, which is this Avengers Day that's in San Francisco, where they have a Terrigen engine that's used for the floaty spaceship mobobber thing, the hellish ship that they have, and it blows up and it turns people into Inhumans. And that's the Avengers all break up and go away, and Kamala Khan is faced with the task of finding all of the Avengers and reassembling them to face AIM. which is it's a cool story. I particularly enjoyed the story of it, but I also particularly love her as a character, and that's what's making me really excited about her show and about her being in the next Captain Marvel film. But to see three women of diverse backgrounds basically lead the film is going to be just really cool, and it's going to represent so many different little girls are out there are going to see themselves as heroes, beyond the ones that we've already seen come before them, so it's just going to bring more little girls into the fold of feeling like superheroes, which is really great.
Now, on the diversity thing, I would like to say one thing. You don't have to put the white people in it. Richard Madden was so bad in this movie. Just get anybody else and let him be cool, right? It doesn't need to be like, I get that we're going with the white dude as a villain for a while, and I think that's important, but like also it's I think been done enough recently that like it's getting a little predictable. You can just not put the white people in it. It's totally fine, right?
I know, and the question in this one was, is it Icarus or Druig?
Yes.
Like the two white guys, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah, Druig definitely fixes himself, and I think he has probably more cause to be white than Icarus does, just based on different myths and legends and stuff. But like, it doesn't like they don't have to be there. They don't have to be there, right? Like, they don't have to be.
Would you leave Kid Harington?
Sure. He was in it for 8 seconds, and I guess it's gonna be the next one.
He had the post-credit scene, and
and he and Mahershala Ali are gonna be in Blade, so I'm excited.
Which is gonna be awesome.
Yeah, let's talk about the post-credit scene for a second, because the mid-credit scene is whatever. It's Harry Styles playing Eros. It's I'm sure it'll be cool. He's a young, charismatic guy that a lot of people like. I think he's a good pull for the MCU. But Mahershala Ali playing fucking Blade.
Is that news to you?
Go, yeah, obviously. I don't watch trailers or pay attention to information. But as soon as he started talking, I was like, oh man, I loved the Blade movies. They were terrible, but I loved them.
They're such a cult classic, and they are like the precursor to the MCU. They were like the movies that made sense for like comic books in film. And so like more so than I think like Spider-Man 2 and some of like other like films that people like to credit like great superhero films prior to the MCU. But like it was just, and when they announced Mahershala Ali as Blade, like the rumor was, and I think this is the story, is that like Mahershala Ali called Kevin Feige. It's like, I want to be Blade. And he was like, all right, fam, I got you. So like,
perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, that was such a obvious casting. If it was anybody else, it would be like, what? No, call Mahershala.
And he's got Wesley Snipes' blessing. Like, he went on Twitter and was like, hey guys, listen, I hear you. I would have loved to play Blade again, but like Mahershala Ali's got it. And when I was in the theater, when I was in the theater, I got to the final scene and I'm like, okay, where's this going? This is really slow. And then he says this line and I just go, oh shit, is that Blade? And I had to like Google it and be like, oh God, it was. Like, I was freaking out. Like, it was like a steady like building until I finally like confirmed it on Google. Like, yes. Like, we've all been waiting for like some sort of connection to Blade, and it's finally happening. So that's pretty cool.
And that was when I felt like Marvel kept in their back pocket. Like in the circles I exist in, nobody was talking about Blade other than like a few comments here and there, like, oh, this is something on the radar. Everybody's been talking about Spider-Man, which I'm going to give you my prediction right now.
Don't care.
No
Don't want to
Way
hear
Home.
it. Don't want to hear it. Don't want to hear it. Don't even start. We're not going there. Stop.
Just hear us.
Stop.
I want to know.
Stop.
I want to know so bad. Tyler,
Just
tell
stop.
me.
No, it's not that I don't want him to feed in the speculation. Speculation is stupid. Stop speculating.
I don't want to give you speculation. Can I tell you what I'm speculating, Ethan? I'm speculating my 0 out of 100, 50.
Wow.
There's no way.
There's no way. It's going to be such a colossal movie.
A colossal waste of time.
You cannot put Tom Holland in the suit without it being at least a 70.
It will shit on the legacy of Alfred Molina as one of the greatest superhero characters of all time.
I don't believe yet. I don't believe that.
I don't believe that either.
I'm so unjazzed. I don't even want to see it. I don't want to cover it. I don't want to be a part of it. I don't want to be disappointed.
I'm excited for it.
That's great. So here's the deal: is that I will take Tyler's place.
I will
on
see
the
it,
pod.
James. I will record.
I will take his place. You can find some swanky guest to come in. I'll feel important for like 10 seconds, and then Tyler can just play with his kids and drink White Claws and not enjoy Spider-Man with us.
I would like to look straight down the camera for a second. Listener, if you are a person right now that is opening your phone at any point in the next however long until the movie comes out to say anything at all about whether or not you think that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are going to be in the movie, stop, log out of Twitter.
I think you
turn your phone off, go outside, eat a moon pie, quit murdering people.
Touch some grass.
Stop,
I think you're setting yourself up.
Please, God, touch some grass. Stop talking about it. Stop worrying about it. Stop thinking about it. It doesn't matter. It can't hurt you. Skull Cow is not real, okay? It cannot hurt you. It will exist when it exists, and whatever happens, happens. It's already done. It's in the can. It's been filmed, okay? They're not going to change their minds about it. They're not going to go into reshoots on Spider-Man No Way Home because enough of you got on Twitter. It's like, I don't want Tobey Maguire to be in it. I want Tobey Maguire to be. Shut up.
Okay. There's no, I don't want Tobey Maguire to be in it. Nobody's saying that, right?
A lot of people are saying that. A lot of people are saying that. Me included. He's a bad actor. He was a bad Spider-Man. He sucks at everything.
I think the only saving grace for freaking stupid No Way Home 50 out of 100 is to get Haley Steinfeld to be in it. She's already in Marvel. She was Spider-Gwen. Put her in it. Put Shamik Moore in it. Put Nicolas Cage in it.
She's Kate.
She's Gemma Chan was in 2 Marvel movies. Okay.
Wait, which Marvel movies was she in?
Gemma Chan was a Skrull.
Oh, interesting.
Gemma Chan.
Gemma Chan was a Skrull. Haley Steinfeld is the lead in the Hawkeye show.
Okay, fine. She shows up and Spider-Gwen looks at Kate Bishop and is like, we look the same? What's that about?
Spider-Gwen's not going to be in the movie.
Put John Mulaney in it.
God, no.
Spider-Ham.
Brian Tyree Henry. Put him in it.
Before I ask
also,
the next question,
I want to say this real quick. Miles Morales' dad is Jefferson Davis. Stan, did you open a history book, bro? Did you?
He did. I think he knew, and it was
Do you
bad.
think he knew?
It was bad then. It was bad then, and it's still bad now.
It's
and
bad.
I really hope that they change his name in some way, shape, or form.
They call him Jeff in Spider-Man PS4, which I think is like a best case scenario.
Yo, Spider-Man PS4 was the best Spider-Man story that we have seen ever, other than Into the Spider-Verse.
What about the 82 years of Spider-Man comics? Have you read all of those?
Those don't matter.
Yes.
Oh.
I have not. No, I haven't. So the one thing I'm going to go back to, and then I'm going to ask the next question. So I just remembered the scene after Hiroshima, where Phastos is like weeping over the fact that he allowed humans to destroy each other in that fashion. I thought that was incredibly moving, actually. I'm not gonna lie. I thought that was like more so than like the other scenes where they were like witnessing like humanity evolving and like using it for like bad things. Yeah. I thought the Hiroshima scene was a really moving moment between Ajax and Phastos. I really thought it was, because even though she was like said, you can go, she was still like connected with each character and was still sort of trying to lead them and impress upon them like their importance and their mission, despite the fact that they weren't like immediately answering to the call. But I will ask this question though. What do you think this has? What implications do you think this has on the MCU going forward?
That an Eternal created the atomic bomb?
Yeah. What are you asking?
Not necessarily for that. Not for that scene. I mean, the movie as a whole.
Oh,
Where do you? How do you see this impacting the? Because it does. I mean, the fact that it's a installation of the MCU. They reference characters, Thor, Iron Man, Captain Rogers. Like it's clearly a part of this universe. So it does have some importance and impact.
I think they set this up in such a way that the next is No Way Home before Haley Steinfeld.
I have no idea.
No, that one comes out the week of, Thanksgiving with a 2-part opener and has 4 more episodes. It's like a 6-part miniseries.
And No Way Home is Christmas, I think.
December 20 something, yeah. Or 19, or basically the week of Christmas.
With the exception of the Hawkeye series, I think they set this up right before the multiverse breaks to be like, nah, it doesn't freaking matter. Like the season finale of Loki will have more of an impact on the MCU than anything ever.
Sure.
I think the post-credit scenes in this movie have more to do with the MCU than
the story itself.
Yeah.
I
I feel like they learned their lesson with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
So yeah, this is what I think. I think Eternals is going to end up a lot like Guardians, where like Yes, it was part of the MCU. Yes, he's from Kansas or whatever.
Missouri, but yeah.
Missouri. Yeah, it's on Earth, dipshit. I got you.
Yeah. Gotcha.
I think we won't see the Eternals, and I'm probably wrong. I think we won't see the Eternals interacting with the rest of the Avengers, so to speak, until there is a Thanos-level event. And Eros might be that. Adam Warlock may be that. I don't know. But I think that we'll probably have them separated a little bit, because they even tackled the same stuff as Guardians Volume 2. Like, there's a Celestial, and we have to do something about it. Like, I think it'll be a bit before they connect with Iron Man. Because even Icarus was like, I could lead the Avengers, and they were like, Ajax didn't even want to let you lead us. Which, hey, good on you, Ajax. I guess you probably freaking knew, since he killed you, but...
Yeah. Yeah. What I hope though is that they don't try to retrofit stuff. You know, like I don't want this to get all Back to the Future 2, where they're like, oh, actually the Battle of New York was stopped by, Druig.
Oh yeah.
That kind of thing where like, they were always around, I promise.
There's a great deleted scene for Endgame where Rocket is talking to them about the Battle of New York, and he's like, you couldn't defeat the Chitauri? That's like the worst army in history. Didn't you know you're just supposed to blow up the mothership and they all die?
Yeah, I've seen that one. It's pretty funny. I mean,
I would love to see a scene where like you get Phastos and Howard Stark working together on something.
Yeah, something like that.
But over time, like back in
yeah. But other than that, like I hope it doesn't have anything to do negative. I wasn't a huge fan of most of the flashbacks in this movie. Honestly, I think that they tried too hard with them. Right? They tried to not be too fan servicey, and they tried to be a little bit too plot with them. And I think they missed on both accounts. Right? Like I think there's a lot of opportunity for you to make little funny quips and references here where like where they had a lot to do with history, and I don't think they do either enough or the correct ones of those. Like
they also had a problem, right? There was a serious issue with the last 70 years of humanity where things really ramped up, and we've evolved so much technologically where Kevin Feige definitely approached Chloe Zhao and was like, you
sad day.
Under no circumstances can call Robert Downey Jr. or Chris Evans to be in your movie. They'll be back, I promise. They can't be back right now. No cameos, no nothing. You can't call anyone. Carol Danvers can't be there. Like, none of it. You get none of it. Oh no, Ethan is gone. We must say no words. Yeah, you can. Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Jimbo! Hey, he's back!
Hello. Sorry about that.
Simos. We did it. I'm going to make you host. Unless it already did.
I don't want to talk about Aaron Rodgers. Just shut up.
Sorry. Don't laugh at him like that, because he's going to get really upset about it, and he has every right to be upset about it.
What a nice little break we just took, dear listener, but we're back, I think.
Nobody with the under 500 records allowed to say shit to me about Aaron Rodgers. That's what I'm deciding.
Wow. Jimbo, who do you even like in the NFL? If you say Schittsburg, I swear to God.
He's a Chiefs fan.
No, my dad's a Chiefs fan.
You're a Bengals fan.
I was a Bengals fan. I don't root for anyone right now, although I will make this promise to you right now, Ty. The day that
Dan Snyder sells the team,
I will start to root for the football team.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing.
Yeah, he should be thrown out and arrested at this point. But
yeah, I know. It is what it is.
I will root for the Washington football team when Dan Snyder's no longer the owner, because I root for all Washington sports at this point in my life, and it's going to stay that way until I die. So I'm just going to do that to make it simple for myself. I don't care how good they are. I really just don't care, because football is one of those things.
It's not about how good they are.
I just want to see good football. Like right now, I enjoy watching I don't care about rivalries. I don't care about anything.
I'll tell you this. Across the board, even with crap teams, the league has been good football this year.
What were we talking about when I
That's what I was saying.
Interruption?
Welcome back to the show, everybody. For those of you listening, it's been only a few moments. For us in real time,
it was like 20 minutes.
20 minutes, but we're back. I don't remember what we were talking about. If it was important.
So the question I posed to you before we broke off was that if you saw this, like, how did you see this this movie impacting the MCU? And you both said not really.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I think No Way Home will break everything. I really don't want Multiverse of Madness to break everything. I'm really not super interested in a multiverse story. I'm obviously not going to get my wish there. I hope they prove me wrong. But what was great about the first 12 years of Marvel was that it wasn't predicated on nostalgia. It was predicated on like introducing new stories to me. And my fear with the acquisition of Sony over the next few years, that's my prediction, is that
God, I hope not.
I know. But rather than preying on Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans, they're going to prey on Tobey and Andrew. And Spider-Man will lead the MCU. And because like if you're Marvel, getting Spider-Man back is the thing. And then like we will get a Fantastic Four movie that's worth its shit.
No, we won't.
I think we will.
These characters are uninteresting.
It's the first family Marvel. I really like the original Fantastic Four movie.
Yeah.
To this day, I thought it was good.
If they bring Chris Evans back as Reed Richards,
they would bring him back as the Human Torch.
Whatever he played.
So
it does not compute to me that Johnny Storm is the Human Torch.
I'll say this. Did you see the Power Rangers movie?
No, I do want to see it though, because I want to see what it was like.
So the Power Rangers movie is important when it comes to talking about the MCU, because the end of I haven't seen it, but the end of the Power Rangers movie, they bring every single Power Rangers team that there ever was in for like a final fight. And that was great for the Power Rangers movie. Like, do whatever you're going to do. Like, they have like all the way from like Mighty Morphin to Dino Force to like everything.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was cool. That's fine for the Power Rangers movie. You straight up cannot do that to me with the MCU. I don't want to see Tobey and Andrew. I don't want to see Jessica Alba. I don't want to see Ben Affleck as Daredevil. I don't want it.
Yeah, I don't need Chris Evans versus Chris Evans.
I don't.
So I think if it's temporary, like if it's a reference, or an Easter egg, or even if it's just like one scene, I think that's fine. Like, I think that's
how you carry on Stan Lee's legacy, is to have cameos from previous Marvel actors and everything moving forward. Fine, I'm cool with it.
Like it's a privilege you're afforded by opening the door to the multiverse to be able to say these characters existed in different iterations, and we can use them to demonstrate how these characters exist in other universes. Like, I think that's a fine thing to do. But what I'm mostly confused about now is that when we started to get the beginnings of the MCU, we at least understood the direction it was going in. So we got this understanding that Iron Man's here, and then Nick Fury shows up and says, I want to talk to you about the Avengers. And then we understand that it's going towards the Avengers. And then at the end of Avengers, we get Thanos. And like it builds up for years. Right now, we really don't have that direction. And we have so many different...
Marvel, hold on. I want to say this. Phase 1 Marvel, sure. Avengers, everything had to line up, right? But Phase 1 Marvel, Nick Fury introduces himself to Edward Norton and Robert Downey Jr., okay? Those movies, the rules of them, the stories of them, didn't have to logically line up. If there were inconsistencies, if there were... Like, in my mind, those were two universes, and then when we make Avengers, Robert Downey Jr. is playing a different character. Mark Ruffalo is playing a different character. And that's not ended up what it being happening. What happened was the character from those movies, like we were seeing different perspectives of the same story. But do you know what I mean? Like there are characters from different universes playing the same character in the Avengers movie.
I would love for them to retcon the Mark Ruffalo Hulk.
They did. One of like the first episodes of, I think it was the first episode of What If, I was actually upset about this. They had Mark Ruffalo do the parts from, I think it's the second episode, from Incredible Hulk in the scene where they're at Virginia Tech. It's not Virginia Tech, it's like Central Virginia Engineering School.
Right. No, I get you. But no, I mean like in the movies, like for them to like, that would be kind of cool. I mean, they're in the same universe. They had to, they recast them because of things, but it would be really cool if they did that.
What I'm saying is like when Avengers came out as a crossover event, it was the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour. The rules of each individual universe of those characters didn't matter.
What an incredible piece of television.
But it was a crossover event. Nothing's a crossover event anymore. This is my problem with reading comics, is every time I'm like, you know what? I'm going to read comics. This Eternal movies was awesome. I want to read everything the Eternals have ever been in. And you can buy for like $8 on Kindle the Eternals written by Jack Kirby from the 80s. I will probably do that and read it. But if you read a superhero comic that comes out in 2021, everything is a crossover because there's no way this world can exist where any sort of cataclysmic event happens where not multiple heroes show up.
Sure.
And that's the problem with the MCU. That's where we've gotten, is that there's too many hero level characters.
My thing is that, like, so we sort of had a clear direction of where things are going, and now they are spending a lot of time setting up. Well, first off, they're processing the events of Avengers Endgame. So, like,
which is good.
WandaVision was like a sort of in that way, and then they are setting up new characters in the Eternals. They're processing things from Falcon Winter Soldier was a process of all of that time. Loki was sort of a setup movie. So like they're setting up a lot of stuff and they're processing things that have already happened. So we don't necessarily know where we're going in the sense that like we have a clear direction of what we're building towards. So right now we're getting a lot of like, well, maybe there's going to be a Young Avengers. Maybe there's going to be a Dark Avengers. There's going to be a multiverse.
There's will definitely be a Dark Avengers.
There's
they have like a Captain America. They have a Scarlet Witch. They have a Hulk. There will 100%. That is what Elaine is doing in the MCU.
Sure. I get it. But
Evil Avengers is coming.
Right. But is it going to be an Evil Avengers against the Avengers? Is it going to be another Civil War level conflict? I don't know. But I'm really excited about the possibilities. And it's with the movies and projects that are confirmed right now, I feel like there's so much potential. But what I'm scared of, and I think the Eternals is starting to make me feel like, is that we're going to have so much content that more projects are going to inevitably be of lesser quality to the consumer. And we'll have some things that are going to be like 90 plus on Rotten Tomatoes and everyone's going to love them and they're going to make $300 million at the box office and all that stuff. And then we're going to have stuff like Eternals where like it does really well because it's a big budget movie and it's got lots of people in it that people know, but it's not going to be great. Like as far as the like widespread love of the film, like this movie was great in so many ways, but not critically like the other ones.
There's a couple things I think you've said here. Eternals, I think maybe not immediately, will have a big impact on the MCU. You can't have intrinsic magic and superhero powers, DC style, that don't have an impact on the MCU because we really don't have a ton of that except for like Scarlet Witch and stuff like everybody else.
Those aren't even intrinsic powers though.
What are you talking about?
Those are Mind Stone powers.
You're right.
Yeah, she was. They were imbued into her being.
That will matter. That will at some point matter. That exists.
Yeah.
What we don't have, what I think you were saying Eternals is, and what it isn't, is Ant-Man. Ant-Man was the Infinity Saga small-scale superhero flick. Like, this impacts Scott Lang and his family and some defense contractors. This is not cataclysmic. This is not world-ending. The final battle takes place in a child's bedroom. Ant-Man did that. Ant-Man and the Wasp did that as well. It went a little bit bigger, but it did it
until
they
time travel with the Pym particle.
Until they time travel with the Pym particle.
Yeah.
But, like, Eternals is bigger than Ant-Man. There is now a small continent because of Eternals. It's a huge deal. Eternals should have been Ant-Man. That's what we said earlier on, was that, like, you don't need a celestial to be living inside of the Earth. That's a big problem. That, like, at Earth's core, there's a celestial. Not anymore, I guess. She turned it to stone. Sidebar, we haven't talked about this. She turned one of the other deviants into a tree in what I thought was like the coolest thing. That tree that she turns it into looks very cool.
Right, but they don't explain how or why it's possible. This is why it should have been a show. This could have been Grogu sitting on a rock for like a third of the episode.
I wholeheartedly disagree. I'm taking an Ethan stance right here, and I firmly believe this. Making Loki the linchpin to Phase 4 of the MCU was a mistake. A huge mistake. I shouldn't have to watch the shows.
So you're saying that the show shouldn't be connected to the movies and vice versa?
Correct.
I'm saying Loki should have been a movie.
Oh.
If you're going to make it a linchpin like that, I think Falcon and the Winter Soldier and WandaVision, perfectly fine shows. Maybe a little bit more involved than what we saw from the Netflix shows and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where there is impact in the films, and it's like added context if you've seen the shows. There will be a movie in the MCU that comes out.
Unwatchable unless you've seen Loki.
Unwatchable unless you've seen Loki, yes. And that, I think, is the problem.
Okay. I mean, the Marvels is going to be that way because you're introducing a TV character, two TV characters in with a movie character.
Monica Rambeau was a movie character.
Yeah.
She was in WandaVision though.
Yes,
Correct.
but she was a
And that's
movie
where she
character
got her power
first.
set. But she was a movie character first.
She was
Her-
a pull
her
character
mo-
for
her-
WandaVision, not
Her,
a
her
introduction.
mom was the character in the movie, although she was a child. So yeah,
No.
I
What
acknowledge
happened
your
was,
point.
imagine this, James. Imagine Thanos was introduced and explored in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
which would have been sick. But continue.
It would not have been sick. It would
It
have been
would not
terrible.
have been sick. I have to watch network TV to understand what's going on in Infinity War. Not sick. I like
Sure,
Agents
okay.
of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's got heart. It's got Fitzsimmons,
It
which
should
is the
be
greatest thing in the history of
discanonized.
television, but it should be removed from the canon.
It technically has been. Hasn't it been pulled off of
Feige has
Disney
not
Plus?
said it. Feige hasn't said
Yeah,
it.
the
therefore it's
Netflix
canon.
shows have been, but I don't think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has.
I
Off of
think they
Disney
will.
Plus?
Here's my theory on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't know if it's on Disney Plus. They will kill Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as canon so that they can recast Ming-Na Wen, period.
I agree with you there.
But I've been seeing a lot of.
That's all
I've
they'll
been
do.
I've been seeing a lot of internet rumors that they're going to bring Quake into the MCU.
I think they, with the multiverse breaking, they can
With Chloe
decanonize MCU 616 and bring in Quake. It's fine.
Yeah, and I've been seeing a lot of internet rumors that they're going to bring 800 characters from the Star Wars cartoons into the Book of Boba Fett. Who knows what they're going to do? I have no idea.
I'm just very happy.
Star Wars
that we
canon
get-
is completely different, and Star Wars runs into this problem a lot, where like the books, the shows, everything multimedia is canon. I just finished a
Everything's
Star Wars
canon.
book today. That's fantastic. I mean, it was amazing. I read Lost Stars. Listener, if you haven't read Lost Stars and you like the Star Wars extended universe, fantastic, amazing, the best Star Wars novel I've read, and I've read a fair few now. Although it's just a sidebar. Kindle needs to stop gaslighting me and be like, the average reader reads this in 4 hours and 30 minutes. And then 3 pages in, it's like, you have 7 hours and 12 minutes remaining. Shut up. I don't need to know. I don't need to know.
I look at the time remaining in my
that's
Kindle books
massive
like
amounts of pressure.
Yeah, I look at the time remaining in my Kindle books like I look at the time on the GPS.
No, listen.
Like, I gotta beat it.
I am the most defensive driver in the world. I always hit exactly what the GPS says. As soon as I get in the car, if it's like, it'll take you 4 hours and 12 minutes, it's going to take me exactly 4 hours and 12 minutes. Ethan uses the horn. I used the horn the other day, and I felt so bad about it. I sat at
use
a
the horn.
stop. I sat at a green light for like a minute and a half because the person in front of me wouldn't go, and then I was like, beep. I'm sorry. You're probably busy.
I lived in Pittsburgh and in DC. Both places are definitely places where you use your horn. So I have learned to use my horn very aggressively, much to the rest of my family's disfavor.
I didn't honk at somebody
so-
the other day and I missed a green light because of it. Like, the dude literally sat there for the entire light cycle. No
hold on.
excuse. No reason.
Okay, let me circle back. The book I finished today explains why there's a Star Destroyer on Jakku at the beginning of The Force Awakens. I love the way that they explained it. I loved everything about it. My problem is if Kathleen Kennedy comes in and
That
says,
one.
I want to do a movie about the Battle of Jakku, which I think would be great. Super excited about it. It has to follow line for line the story of Lost Stars. Because if it doesn't, then the book is no longer canon. And a lot of the book takes place over 2 years BBY all the way through the Battle of Jakku. And if everything doesn't match up perfectly, there's your problem. Now, if it matches up perfectly, I'm totally cool with it. Let's make the movie. Kathleen Kennedy, call me. I'm in.
Kathleen Kennedy, call me. I know you don't know me, and I'm a guy that makes podcasts, but I will gladly direct your feature-length Star
You don't
Wars
have to-
movie.
You don't have to cast me as the director. Just like this guy was an extra in Lost Stars, the movie. Like, I don't want Marvel to have that problem. And the TV shows with the variety of different directors, they're doing the right thing in that, like the Star Wars shows, it's very weird that they do it this way, have like 10 directors per show, or per episode, or per season. Which I like that they do. It allows you to get a whole bunch of different perspectives. The Marvel shows have one director for the entire season, which I think the way they have to do it because there's so much potential for error here.
Yeah.
And eventually it's going to intermingle with the comics, and you're going to have to have read the comics, or you're going to have to have read a book, or you're going to have to have seen a TV show.
And that is only a bad thing.
It's only a bad thing. I want it to be a movie experience. That was what was so great about the Infinity Saga, was that I didn't have to watch. There were supplemental pieces to it. You could, I wonder what New York was like for some of the smaller heroes. Let's watch Marvel or Netflix's Daredevil series, which slapped. Totally down with it.
Yep,
Also,
season 3 was amazing.
Also, if they want to bring Charlie Cox back as Daredevil, it doesn't have to be that character because they broke the multiverse. They can do whatever they want. But yeah, you need to see Loki to understand Phase 4 is a problem. That's how I feel about it.
So when I was applying for graduate school, you had to do like your applications, right? Your applications were like your resume, and it was like a statement, and your like grades, which like I was like ashamed every time I had to submit my grades. Like, oh God,
I wouldn't. I straight up wouldn't. I've like thought about going to grad school, and if they were like, "Oh, send us your transcript from your undergrad," I just simply wouldn't send it.
So, but you would do all that. So, but and then a fee, like money. You had to pay the money for you to apply. The best application that I ever did was the Carnegie Mellon application. It was the one that mattered. It was all of those things, except they added an additional 250 words and a video. You had to achieve specific things. There was a prompt and you had to follow the prompt. What I was really hoping that the Marvel shows were, so the movies were the statement that you had to, your statement about who you were and like that went along with your application. And in the Carnegie Mellon application, they asked you for an additional 250 words of anything you wanted to write about, and it was optional. And the way that I approached it was that I took a sentence from my statement and I expanded on it. And so what I really wanted the shows to be were the extra 250 words about the idea from my main paper, and for them to expand upon a character or a story arc or something in between these two earth-shattering events, right? And so far, I feel like they've done that to some extent. I think
WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier do that.
Yes, that's what I'm about to say. Is that I feel like the first two shows did that. Now we have to see if what you're saying is true. That if there are going to be movies that are completely reliant on the fact that you saw Loki.
I think Spider-Man, here's my prediction. Spider-Man No Way Home will probably explain it on its own because it's a Sony property and they're going to be like, oh, we want to make sure that we bring people in. By the time we get to Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, you'll have to be in.
But will they explain it in a way that you understand from Spider-Man, and then they say, oh, there's another character that we missed? Let me go back and watch this. And it still makes sense to me, especially since Loki was cut in half because of the pandemic. That's the other thing, too, is that Loki should have been finished by now, but they've cut it in half because production was disrupted by the pandemic.
I think also when they were filming Loki, they were like, this show slaps. Let's stretch this baby out.
They definitely stretched it out in ways that like were not great. Like the singular episode of them on a planet that's about to blow up, like I felt like it was a complete waste of time.
You don't get a filler episode in season 1. That's a
that was a
rule.
great episode though. That was a great episode though. Well, 100 out of 100, there was a train.
Oh, that's right. There was a train. That's right. Hey, there's a train in Spider-Man No Way Home, and it turns into like 4 trains. Just saying, you should be excited.
Are we going to see Tom Holland stop a train? I just don't know that I'm ready for that.
No, we're going to see Doctor Strange turn 1 train into like 4 trains.
Well, that's going to be cool.
It's going to be
also, cool. I'm sorry. We have to go back to the Doctor Strange movie, and you have to remake it. You do. It's not good enough.
You have to do better at that movie.
Because if Doctor Strange is going to be the cornerstone moving forward, Loki, and like you gave Dr. Loki a TV show, cool. We get a little bit more. Nobody watched Thor: The Dark World, fine. Doctor Strange the movie is not good enough. I don't know what the mirror dimension is. I don't feel confident about this. Thanks for listening to Bacon and Eggs. We have enough listener reviews to do some listener scores.
We sure do.
Just to recap, I gave this movie a 91, Ethan a 70, Rotten Tomatoes a 46, Metacritic a 52, and Jimbo here gave it a, what was that? As a 40? 40. Ethan's calculating the listener score right now.
It is a 76.
76. I will say, I think given this conversation, 91 is probably a little higher than how I feel about it, but obviously I locked in. I can't change my score. I appreciate obviously. And I appreciate your perspective. I love this movie. I love that it exists. I think for a lot of people, it'll be their favorite Marvel movie. And I'm super glad about that. It's very different. It's very fun. And I really liked it. And I stand by really liking it. And I think the more I watch it, the more I'll like it. That's the point I wanted to make was the more
you say that about every single Marvel movie we ever watch on this show.
No, but this is for a different reason. I think this is sort of like a Star Wars prequels thing where it's like, eventually I'll forgive all the dumb shit that they did in this movie and everybody will, and it will become like this sort of cult classic favorite where like, you forget all the dumb stuff and you forget the lack of character development because you've seen it so many times that you're like, oh, these characters are well developed. I love them, even though they're not. It gives it a bacon
and I think the
score.
CGI will age like crap.
I do think that it is definitely not freaking. Why did that give me a percentage? Don't give me a percentage there. What formula is running a percentage? It gives it a 71 bacon and egg score, rounded up from 70.75, which is the lowest of the year. As a reminder, School of Rock is at number 1 right now with a bacon and egg score of 94, Dune at 80, and Eternals is at a 71, rounded up from 70.75.
Interesting. Where does this land for MCU films? Do we know?
No, because it's tough to say because year
it's
one
over
when we did
several
most
seasons,
of the MCU,
right?
yeah, year one when we did like the first 18 of them is organized by how we ranked them as we went and not the scores we gave them during a year 4 hash browns. Yeah. That being said, in the MCU, for reference, it's very roughly sketching it out. Iron Man 3 got an 85 from us, and Thor got a 68, and those are 43 and 45 from year 1, so it would be between those. That beats from that year Thor, Ant-Man and the Wasp, and Iron Man 2, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Thor the Dark World, and The Incredible Hulk. If it's added to canon, it also beats Deadpool 2.
Ant-Man and the Wasp featuring yours truly, only available on Spotify and iTunes and
everywhere you can
get your podcasts. Yes.
Cool. I'm gonna save the score we gave it. We didn't do that in years past, but we're gonna do that now. That way, if we need to update things or revisit scores later on, we have it. Ethan, you ready to wrap the show?
Yeah. Bacon and Eggs is a production of the WB&E Podcast Network. For this show and more shows like it, you can head to WB&E.org or search for any of our great shows on any podcatcher, anywhere you find podcasts, anywhere podcasts are sold or given away for free. If you find somewhere that's selling podcasts, let us know. We'd like a cut at that. But you can go to patreon.com/bacon and eggs to get access to unedited episodes of Bacon and Eggs and great bonus content like the hash browns and other stuff that we do. Oh my gosh. Bacon and Eggs is so great. I love it. That's what you're saying right now as you're signing up for Patreon. You can, if you want more of James, you can find him on the internet anywhere James Swindells are sold or given away for free. And you can find him on several episodes of Bacon and Eggs. Most recently, the Tombstone episode that we did while Tyler was having a child.
Yeah, Tombstone, Ant-Man and the Wasp, the Eternals, and another episode when Tyler and Ethan say, "Come on down."
Come on down. James, you're on The Price is Right tomorrow. Tell Drew Carey I said hi.
Hey, Drew Carey and his beard.
If you like this show and you want to listen to another great podcast, you should check out Perspective Z. It's hosted by 2 Gen Z hosts who just kind of give their perspective on the world. They're fantastic. They're funny. They're nice. They're accepting. They're open. They are also now both legally adults, which is a little weird to think about. Perspective Z, there's a preview for it right here.
Have you ever wondered what Gen Z was thinking while half the generation was eating Tide Pods?
Or what those gosh darn kids are up to these days?
Well, then you should check out our podcast, Perspective Z, hosted by me, Rachel.
And me, Katrina. We discuss pop culture, politics, and everything in between, and give you our perspective as 2 Gen Z ladies trying to figure out our place in the world.
Listen along to hear our thoughts and opinions as we gear up for college and beyond.
So make sure to check out new episodes of Perspective Z every Monday on the WB&E network at WBNE.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
Now on Spotify. Toodles!
Neato! This has been another episode of Bacon and Eggs. Our graphics are by Vaishon Brandon. Vaishon Designs on Instagram. Our music is by Andrew Scott Bell. AndrewScottBellMusic.com. For us, you can find us on the internet at Bacon and Eggs Pod. And James, you can find it on the internet at Jim Swindell on Twitter and Instagram. And James, do you have any final thoughts? Any questions, comments, death threats?
No, I definitely no death threats. No,
Good.
Thank you so much for having me on the pod again. I really appreciate it. To all your friends and pod listeners out there, be safe. Be sure to wear a mask. Get a vaccination if you are able to, and be sure to register to vote if you haven't already.
Yeah, CDC recommends wearing a mask whenever you listen to podcasts, especially if you're in your own home. Podcasts are known to be dangerous, more dangerous even than rattlesnakes.
I would not lick my microphone if I were not me. Like, if you came into my home and you were like, actually, Mary Clay's going to stay in this room in a couple weeks. Mary Clay, do not lick the microphone.
I would not lick my microphone, and I am me. On that bombshell, it's time to leave. My name is Ethan Edghill. That's James Swindell. That's Tyler Carlin. Until next time, arrivederci.
Hey, Jack.